Hey guys, we're gonna continue the Handbook of Hymen and let's begin. I sat and read that book for 4 hours. All the wonders of education was compressed in it. I forgot the snow, and I forgot that me and the old Idaho was on the outs. He was sitting still on a stool, reading away. What a kind of body, soft and partly mysterious look shining through his tan-barked whiskers. Idaho, Idaho, says I. What kind of a book is yours? Idaho must have forgot too, for he answered moderate, without any slander or malignity. Why, says he, this here seems to be a volume by Homer K. M. Homer K. M. What? I asks. Why? Just Homer K. M. says he. You're a liar, says I, a little reeled that Idaho should try to put me up a tree. No man is going around signing books with his ini initials. If it's Homer K. M. Spoopenduke or Homer K. M. McSwinley or Homer K. M. Jones, why don't you say so like a man instead of beating off the end of it like a calf chewing off the tail of a shirt on a clothesline? I put it to you straight, Sandy, says Idaho, quiet. It's a poem book, says he, by Homer K. M. I couldn't get color out of it and of it at first, but there is a win if you follow it up. I wouldn't have missed this book for a pair or red blankers. You're welcome to you're welcome to it, says I. What what I want is disinterested statement of facts for the mind to work on, and that's what I seem to find in the book I've drawn. What you've got, says Idaho, it's statistics, the lowest grade of information that exists. They'll poison your mind. Give me old KM system of surmises. He seems to be a kind of a wine agent. His regular toast is nothing doing, and he seems to have a grouch, but he keeps it so well lubricated with booze that his worst kicks sound like an invitation to split a quart. But it's poetry, says Idaho, and I have sensations of scorn for that truck of yours that convey is tries to convey sense in feet and inches. When it comes to explaining the instinct of philosophy through the art of nature, old KM has got your man beat by drills, rows, paragraphs, chest measurement, and average annual rainfall. So that's the way me and Ida had it. Day and night, all the excitement we got was studying our books. That snowstorm sure fixed us with a fine lot of attainments of with a fine lot let with a fine lot of attainments apiece. By the time the snow melted, if you had stepped up to me suddenly and said, Sanderson Pratt, what would it cost per square foot to lay a roof with 20 by 2018 at $9.50 per box? I'd have told you as quick as light could travel the length of a spade handle at the rate of 122,000 miles per second. How many can do it? You wake up you wake up most any man you know in the middle of the night and ask him quick to tell you the number of bones in the human skeleton exclusive of the teeth or what percentage of the world of the Nebraska legis legislature overrules a wet veto. Will he tell you? Try him and see. About what benefit Idaho got out of his poetry book, I didn't exactly know. Idaho boosted the wine agent every time he opened his mouth, but I wasn't so sure. This Homer K.M. from what leaked out of his libretto fraud Idaho. Libretto through Idaho seems to me to be a kind of a dog who looked at life like it was a tin can tied to his tail. After running himself half to death, he sits down, hands his tongue out, and looks at the can and says, Oh, well, since we can't shake the growler, let's get it filled at the corner, and all have a drink on me. Beside that, it seemed that beside that, it seems he was a Persian, and I never heard of Persia producing anything worth mentioning unless it was Turk Turkish rugs and Maltese cats. That spring me that spring me and Idaho struck by or. It was a habit of ours to sell out quick and keep moving. We unloaded on our grub staker for $8,000 apiece, and then we drifted down to this little town of Rosa on the Salmon River to rest up and get some human grub and have our whiskers harvested. Rosa was no mining camp. It laid in a valley and was as free or uproar and pestilence, pestilence pestilence as one of them rural towns in the country. There was a 3 mile trolley line champion its bit in the environs. And me and Ida has spent a week riding one on one of the cars, dropping off nights at a Sunest View Hotel. Being now society in Rosa, being now well read, as well as traveled. He was soon pro Renata with the best society in Rosa and was invited out to the most dress up and high toned entertainments. It was at a piano recital, recital and qualin, qual, quali, qualiating contest in the city hall for the benefit of the fire company that me and Idaho first met Mrs. the Ormond Sampson, the queen of Rosa society. Mrs. Simpson was a widow and owned the only two-story house in town. It was painted yellow, and whichever way you look from, you could see it as plain as egg on the chin of an already on a Friday. 22 men in Rosa besides me and Idaho was trying to stake a claim on that yellow house. There was a dance after the song books and quail bones had been raked out of the hall. 23 of the bunch galloped over to Mrs. Simpson and asked for a dance. I sidestepped the two-step and I sidestepped the two-step and asked permission to escort her home. That's where I made a hit. On the way home, says she. And the stars lovely and bright tonight, Mr. Pratt. For the chance they've got, says I, they are humping themselves in a mighty creditable way. That big one, you see, is 66 billions of miles distant. It took 36 years for its light to reach us. With an 18-foot telescope, you can see 43 millions of them, including them of the 13 magnitude, which is one was to go out now. You would keep on seeing it for 2,700 years. My, says Mrs. Simpson. I never knew that before. How warm is it? I'm as damp as I can. I'm as damp as I can be from dancing so much. That's easy to account for, says I. When you happen to know that you've got 2 million sweat glands working at once. If every one of your persi perspiratory ducts, which a quarter of an inch long, was placed end to end, they would reach a distance of 7 miles. Lossy, says Mrs. Simpson. And it sounds like an irrigation. ditch you was describing, Mr. Pratt? How do you get all this knowledge of information? From observation, Mrs. Simpson. I tells her. I keep my eyes open when I go about the world. Mr. Pratt, says she. I always did admire a man of education. There are so few scholars among the sap-headed, sap-headed, plug uglies of this town that is a real pleasure to converse with the gentlemen of culture. I would be gratified to have you call at my house whenever you feel so inclined. And that was the way I got the goodwill of the lady in the yellow house. Every Tuesday and Friday evenings, I used to go there and tell her about the wonders of the universe as discovered, tabulated, and compiled from nature by Herkimer. Idaho and the other guy, Lutherans, Lutherans of the town got every minute on the rest of the week that they could. I never imagined that Idaho was trying to work on Mrs. Simpson with old GM rules of courtship. Till one afternoon, when I was on my way over to take her a basket of wild hot plums, I met the lady coming down the lane that led to her house. Her eyes was snapping, and her hat made a dangerous dip over one eye. Mr. Pratt, she opens up. This Mr. Green is friend of yours, I believe. For 9 years, says I. Cut him out, says she. He is not gentleman. Why, madame, says I. He is he is a plain incumbent of the mountains, with asperities and the usual failings of a thrift, spendthrift, and a lair. But I never, on the most momentous occasion, had the heart to deny that he was a gentleman. It may be that in haberdashery, and this sense of arrogance and display Idaho offends the eye. But inside, madame, I found him impervious to the lower grades of crime and obes, obesity, obesity. After 9 years of Idaho society, Mrs. Simpson, I winds up. I should hate to input him, and I should hate to see him inputted. It's right, It's right, plausible, plausible of you, Mr. Pratt, says Mrs. Simpson, to take up the Kermit Kermit in your friend's behalf, but it don't alter the fact that he has made proposals to me sufficiently obnoxious to ruffle the ignominy of any lady. Why, now, says I. All that Idaho do that? I could believe it. I could believe it of myself sooner. I never knew, but one thing to the right in him. And the blizzard was responsible for that. And a blizzard. Once while we was snowbound in the mountains, he became he became a prey to a kind of spurious and uneven poetry, which may have corrupted his demeanor. It has, says Mrs. Simpson, ever since I knew him, he has been rec- reciting, reciting to me a lot of. He's been reciting to me a lot of irregular rhythms, irre, irreli- irreligious rhythms, by some person he calls Ruby Odd, and who is no better than she should be, if you judge by her poetry. Then Idaho struck a new book, says I, for the one he had was by a man who writes under the nom de plume of KM. Okay, guys, that's probably it for today, and let's continue tomorrow. See you. Bye.